Okay, now the new topic for today's class is solving quadratic inequalities. We all are aware of linear inequalities and how to solve them, right? Linear inequalities simply were 2x plus 5 less than equal to 7, greater than equal to 7. So if I want to find the range of values of x, this is how I would be solving the linear inequality. So x is going to be greater than equal to 1 for this to hold true. This was the linear inequality that you have done in the previous classes. Now we are dealing with a quadratic inequality. That means that you will be having a quadratic expression on either side. So for example, the graph that you see is of a minimum curve, right? So over here, P and Q are the x-intercepts on the graph. Let's take P value as 2 and Q value as 4. Okay. P value is 2 and Q value is 4. So these are my x-intercepts. Would you also agree that the equation is going to be x minus 2 times x minus 4 for this curve? This is the factored form. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's the factored form of the quadratic inequality. Now, we want to find the range of values of x. Now, there are three cases over here. When you are going to equate this, when you are going to equate the factored form equal to 0, would you agree that the two values of x are going to be 2 and 4? This becomes your equation, right? But when this is not equal to 0, and let's say your x minus 2 times x minus 4 is less than 0, then this becomes your quadratic inequality. Or if it is x minus 2 times x minus 4 greater than 0, then also it's a quadratic inequality, because now you have an inequality sign over here. Now we need to find the range of values of x for which this curve is going to be less than 0. So if you look, I know that the two x-intercepts are 2 and 4. At these points, the value of the function is 0. The value of the quadratic function is 0 at this point and at this point. The value of the quadratic function is positive over here. That's why it's above the x-axis. And the value of the quadratic function is positive over here. The value of the value of my quadratic function, the value of my quadratic function is negative over here, right? That's why it's below the x-axis. So can I say that if the values of x are between 2 and 4, I will get the value of the quadratic curve to be negative? Can I say that?
Yes, sir.
And if the value of the if the value of if the range of the values of x is greater than 4, let's say 5 or 6 or 7, or as to say less than 2, for example 1, 0 and negative 1 and so on. So this is the region where your quadratic curve is positive, which means above the quadratic curve is greater than 0. Okay. So for the if you're asked to solve this equation where the quadratic curve is less than 0. So what is the region for which the quadratic curve is less than 0? Over here, right? The quadratic curve is less than 0 over here. Less than 0 means that the quadratic curve has negative values. So this is my region. So any values of x that are between 2 and 4 will give you the value of the quadratic function to be negative. For example, if I take 3, I'm getting a negative value. If I take 3.5, I'm getting a negative value. Okay. If I take 3.9, I'm going to get a negative value. Any value that is between 2 and 4 will give me the value of the quadratic function to be negative. So if I want to solve this quadratic inequality, the solutions to this inequality should be x greater than 2 less than 4. This is the solution of my quadratic inequality. For these values of x, I am going to get this curve less than 0. Is this part clear to everyone?
Yes,
Is
sir.
Yes.
So
Yes, sir.
okay. Now, for the next example was x minus 2 times x minus 4 greater than 0. This represents your curve, and you want your curve to be greater than 0. For what values of x is the curve greater than 0? Guys, it is going to be greater than 0. It is greater than 0 over here, right? You can see that the
Yes.
quadratic curve is greater than 0 at before before the values of x as 2. So if you take the values of x below 2, you're going to get the curve to be positive. And if you're going to take the values of x after 4, you're going to get the values of on the curve to be positive. So you're always going to get, in this case, in this example, you're getting the values of you're getting the curve values to be positive when the values of x are less than 2 and when the values of x are greater than 4. So for this for the answer to this quadratic inequality should be x less than 2 or x greater than 4. This is an OR case. If the quadratic curve is less than 0, okay, then the x values are going to be between the two x intercepts, that is x greater than 2 and less than 4. This is called AND case. You are going to read this as x greater than p and less than q, where p and q are these critical values, the x intercepts. So x greater than 2 and less than 4. If the question was a quadratic curve to be greater than 0, then the range of the values of x for which I'm going to get the curve greater than 0 is going to be x less than 2 and x less than 4, x greater than 4. Is this thing clear?
So, sir, you mean that if negative p will be first, then we'll write it's greater than x and q is less than x.
Uh, no, there are two cases. I'll explain this again with this example. This example is going to make sense now. So if you are asked to solve a quadratic inequality, this means that you have to give the range of values of x for which this curve, for which this quadratic curve is greater than 0. Okay. So the first step that you're going to do is make the factors or find the critical values. So if I factorize x squared minus 5x minus 14, if I do the middle term breaking, it's going to be right. First of all, you're going to write this as a factor form if possible. The reason why we are writing it as a factor form is because we want the critical values. By critical values, I mean these values of p and q, which are the x-intercepts. So guys, can you look at this equation and tell me the x-intercepts of this quadratic curve?
Does that mean, sir, it will be x is on 7 and its x is on -2?
Right. So one value of the x-intercept is -2 and the other value is 7. It's it's the minimum curve. Okay. Now you want this curve to be greater than 0. Greater than 0 means above the x-axis. Okay. Greater than 0 means above the x-axis. So have I shaded the correct region? Are these two
Yes, sir.
regions above the x-axis? Yes. So when are you going to get these x values? When are you going to get these positive values, greater than 0 values? For the values of x that are after 7 means greater than 7, or if the x values are less than -2. then you are going to get the curve, this curve positive. Greater than 0 means that the curve needs, this is your equation of the curve, right? You want the curve to be positive. The curve is going to be positive, or meaning greater than 0, when the solution is going to be x, when the x values are going to be less than -2 or x greater than 7. Does that make sense to you?
So sir, that will be 7 greater than x and less than -2.
7 greater than, sorry, uh, are you repeating this, or are you,
Yes, I understood. I mean, I understand.
but over here we have x greater than 7. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, if I
Sir,
would,
x less than -2 means -1, 0
yes,
can also be included.
minus 1. No, not -1. X less than -2 means on this side,
Okay, okay,
you need to go below -2, which is -3, -4, -2.5. Okay. Or it can be
okay,
x
sir.
greater than 7. Now,
Okay,
if,
sir.
guys, I'm just changing the question. If you had x squared minus 5x minus 14 less than 0, what would be my
So
solution?
it will be opposite. It
It
will
would,
be x is greater than 7 and less than -2.
you are saying it opposite. The smallest value is -2, so it should be greater than -2. Okay, just a second. I'm going to explain. So these are the, I'm going to get the same x-intercept because it's the same equation. Now the question is that when, for what values of x is your quadratic curve less than 0? So I can see that my quadratic curve is less than 0 for the values of x that are between -2 and 7. So the answer to this is going to be x greater than -2 and less than 7. If my values of x are between -2 and 7, then I'm going to get the curve value to be negative, or the function value to be negative. Make sense?
So you mean like we got this -2 greater than x and x is greater than 7. If it's opposite, like in the first form which you gave us x squared minus 5x minus 14 less than 0. So that means 7 will be greater than x and x will be greater than -2.
Okay, I think there is some confusion. You have some confusion in reading the sign. How would you read this inequality? Read,
X greater than -2?
no. This is x less
-2
than,
greater than x.
yes, -2 is greater than x. So we read this statement as x is less than -2. And this is read as x is greater than 7. Please remember that any number which has this sign becomes greater than the other number. When the mouth of the crocodile is open, the number, this number is going to be positive. This number is going to be greater. Okay. So over, out of these, when you write this as a range, this means x is greater than 7. And when you write this as the range, it is read as x is less than -2. When I
Oh
write
yes, okay, sir.
when I write this as a
Okay.
range, it's going to be x greater than -2 and x is less than 7. Okay, now I want you guys to try the next one.
-2 greater than x.
No, no, it's -2 is not greater than x. This is read as x. You always start by reading from x. You're going to say x is greater than -2 and less than 7. X is between -2 and 7, so x has to be greater than -2 and less than 7. Please
Okay,
try that.
sir. So that means x is greater than -2 and 7 is greater than x.
Yes, you can say that.
If sir, like x squared minus 5x minus 14 is greater than 0, it will be the opposite answer.
Come again. Sorry.
If you like in the first solution, you give us x squared minus 5x minus 14 greater than 0,
Hmm.
that means the solution will be -2 greater than x and x is less than 7.
X is greater than 7.
Yes.
See, if you can just plot this basic sketch, you're going to answer this easily. In order to get this, in order to get this part of the graph, I will have to go below -2, which means x is less than -2. To get this part of the graph, I will have to go up. I will have to go towards the right of 7, which means x should be greater than 7. If I have this inequality, the curve is less than 0. So the curve is less than 0 over here below the x-axis. So if my values of x are between -2 and 7, then I am going to get the right answer for this quadratic inequality. Now this is going to be that the solution has to be greater than -2 and less than 7. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now let's try the next example. 2x squared plus 3x less than equal to 27. So the first step is going to be that you rearrange the equation. 2x squared plus 3x minus 27 less than equal to 0. And then you can factorize this. Okay, give me the factor form, or just give me the critical values. Guys, from now on, I'm going to be referring to these values as critical values. Okay, that's my way of doing the question. Critical value simply means that these are the x-intercepts. Okay, so give me the critical values.
-3 and 4 4.5, positive 4.5.
Okay, 3 and -4.5. You are right. So the critical values are 3 and -4.5. All right. So that means if I were to sketch the graph, so this is going to be -4.5. This is going to be 3. Now, question says, for what values of x is your quadratic curve less than or equal to 0? We know that the curve is equal to 0 at the value of -4.5 and 3. But where is it going to be less than 0? It's going to be less than 0 below the x-axis. So this is the region that we are interested in. So the solution to this inequality should be, so here, what should be the solution to this inequality?
X is uh, greater than less than 4.5.
Less than or greater than?
uh,
See, if you want
Less
these
than.
values, guys, listen. The reason I've shaded this region is because this is the part that is below the x-axis or less than 0.
Okay.
So so if I'm going to have these values of x between -4.5 and 3, I'm going to get a negative value of my quadratic curve.
Hmm.
So what should be my answer then? X is
X is
greater
uh,
than equal to -4.5, okay, or and less than equal to 3. So if I'm going to take x values between this range,
hmm.
between -4.5 and 3, I'm going to get the negative value, because less than 0 means negative value. Okay.
Sir,
So
why greater than equals to or less than equals to? Why
because
not? Just
because the question had less than equal to. So the
all
question
right.
said that for what values of x is your curve less than equal to 0? So it is equal to 0 at -4.5 and 3, and it is less than 0 between the values -4.5 and 3. So x must be greater than equal to -4.5 and less than equal to 3. Are we clear with this concept?
So, sir, if they give us less than or greater, equals to or greater than or equals to less than, so we must write equals to less than or equals to greater than.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay, so now as a summary of this, The summary of this lecture is over here. If your quadratic curve is greater than 0, then your solution sets are going to be x less than p and x greater than q if p is the smallest value and q is the largest value. And if your curve is less than 0, then the solution for the values of x is going to be between p and q, where p and q are the x-intercepts.
Sir, what if the curve don't go underneath the x-axis?
Then if the curve does not go below the x-axis,
Yes,
there are two possibilities. Either the curve is tangent to the x-axis, meaning it is just touching the x-axis at one point, or it is lying entirely above the x-axis. Which case are you talking about?
it's lying entirely above the
So if
x-axis.
it is lying entirely above the x-axis, okay, if good question, I can answer that. If your curve lies entirely above the x-axis, so are there going to be any x-intercept?
No.
No. So if this equation was ax square plus bx plus c, and it does not have any x-intercepts, so
Hmm.
it will lie above the x-axis and there are no x-intercepts. So if the question says, uh, let's do an example. Let's take this equation x minus 2 the whole thing square plus 1. Okay, that's the competing square form. So if the question says, okay, solve the inequality x minus 2 the whole thing square plus 1 greater than 0. Now, you know that the turning point is 2 comma 1. So if the minimum point is above the x-axis, the entire graph is going to be above the x-axis. If the entire graph is above the x-axis, there are no x-intercept. So there are no solutions for this.
So
It
could
is
you
going.
repeat? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay. And what about you, Abdul Rahman? Can you hear
Sir,
me?
you're lagging on my side.
Okay. Can you just restart your internet, or
Yes, sir. Okay.
just leave the meeting and join in again?
Sir, I have my monthly test starting from October 8th.
Hmm.
So the topics included are quadratics, functions, and uh, another topic that Sir Salman will start after coordinate geometry from from Monday.
Coordinate geometry.
Coordinate geometry will not be included, he said. The topic which he will start after coordinate geometry will be included.
Okay, that's transformation of functions.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I can share my videos with you, the pre-recorded videos with you. Okay. You can watch that, but because in the class I am on quadratics
Yes,
now, I'll do this
yes.
in detail and then I'll move on to functions. But
I'm back.
but
Okay,
but,
sir.
but you can WhatsApp me. I'll share you the link of my recorded lectures. Okay.
Okay, sir, please share your number. Okay.
Okay. Now, so his question, Abdul Rahman, his question was that what if we do not have the
Sir, could
x-intercept?
you repeat again?
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. But could you repeat?
Yeah, I'm repeating. His question was that what if there are no x-intercepts? So I said that if there are no x-intercepts, then the curve is going to lie entirely above the x-axis. So I gave you guys an example, x minus 2 the whole thing square plus 1. The turning point of this graph is 2 comma 1. That means the minimum point is 2 comma 1. So if the minimum point is above the x-axis, the entire graph is above the x-axis. So if you're asked to solve this inequality, that for what values of x is this curve going to be greater than 0? So this is going to be greater than 0 for all real values, for all real values of x. There are no specific solutions for all real values of x. It's going to be greater than 0. Why? Because if I take x as 3, I'm going to get positive. If I take x as 4, I'm going to get a positive value. If I take x value less than 2, I'm still going to get a positive answer. Even at 2, I'm going to get a positive answer. So the question was, okay, what are the solution set for this inequality? So the solution set is going to be for all real values of x. There is no single value which is going to give you a negative value because the entire curve is lying above the x-axis. Now, if the question was x minus 2 the whole thing square plus 1 less than 0, then you are going to get no values of x. Okay, that is not true. That inequality is not true because this curve this curve is always above the x-axis. It cannot be less than 0. It can never be less than 0. Are you guys getting my point?
Sir, what do you mean? What do you mean? Not true.
I meant to say that, okay, I want you to do this example with me. If you have this equation x minus 2 the whole thing square plus 1, this is the equation of your quadratic curve, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you want, if let's say the question is prove that y equals to x minus 2 the whole thing square plus 1 lies above the x-axis. Okay, so if you draw this graph of x minus 2 the whole thing square plus 1, what is the turning point of on this graph? Can you tell me, Abdul Rahman? What is the turning point of this graph?
Will
You can just look at the completing square form and tell me. You can take the value.
negative 2,
It's
2 and
positive
1,
2 and 1.
2
Positive
and
2
1.
and 1. Yes. Now, is this graph a maximum curve or a minimum curve?
Maximum,
No, it's minimum. Remember,
minimum.
the coefficient of the bracket is positive. So if I draw this graph, 2 comma 1 is the turning point. Okay. So my graph is going to be like this. Does this graph has the x-intercepts?
Yes.
No,
No.
No.
it's not intersecting the x-axis, so it does not have x-intercepts. Okay. So what is the answer going to be? It is going to be that since the minimum point lies above the x-axis, therefore x minus 2 the whole thing square plus 1 lies above the x-axis. If the minimum point is above the x-axis, then the entire curve is above the x-axis. So can I say that x minus 2 the whole thing square plus 1 is greater than 0 for all real values of x? No matter
Yes.
no matter what value of x I take, I will always going to get a positive answer. So the solution for this inequality is going to be that it is true for all real values of x. If x minus 2 the whole thing square plus 1 was less than 0, so that's a wrong inequality. That's not possible. And you can see from the graph that there are no values of x for which this graph is ever going to go below the x-axis. That's not possible. Okay.
Okay, sir.
All
Understood.
right. All right, guys. I want you to do this question with me now.
So
Uh,
we'll first find the turning points.
no, read the question. Okay, yeah. A curve has the equation y equals to x squared minus 5x plus 7, and the line has this equation. Show that the curve lies above the x-axis. Yes, you first convert this into the completing square form. Okay, I'm waiting for you guys. Please give me the completing square form of this quadratic equation.
It's giving me answer in, it's like 2.5 negative 0.866i something.
Okay, guys. So if I recall the method that was used for completing square form, okay, if I convert this into completing square form by comparing, this is how you can easily do that. Please remember this comparing method. It's going to help you in the exam.
So
Okay,
in
now
exam, could we just write like x squared minus 5x plus 7 equals ax squared
no,
directly the final step?
in AS exams, I don't think so. You can't do that. You will have to show the completing square method. Okay, so x square coefficient is a on the right hand side and 1 on the left hand side. So a value is 1. The coefficient of x on the right hand side is minus 2h and on the left hand side is minus 5. So minus 5 equals to negative 2ah. Negative sign cancels out. H comes out to be 5 upon 2. And the constant term is 7 on the right hand side and on the left, 7 on the left hand side and on the right hand side is a square plus k. A value is 1, h value is 5 upon 2. So k value comes out to be, I can solve for k. So k value is going to be 7 minus 25 upon 4. Guys, you should get 3 upon 4. So my completing square form, guys, is going to be x minus 5 over 2 the whole thing square plus 3 upon 4. Okay, that's the completing square form. Now, how do I show whether the graph lies above the x-axis? The graph is going to lie above the x-axis if the entire graph is going to lie above the x-axis if the turning point is also above the x-axis. So what is the this is a graph of a minimum curve. Okay, this is the equation of a minimum curve. So the turning point is going to be the minimum point. And what are the coordinates of the minimum points, Zohaib?
Sir, minus 5 upon 2 and 3 upon 4.
No, yeah.
It's
No,
positive 5 over
it's
2 and
positive
Oh,
5
3
upon
over
2 and 3 upon 4. So positive 5, okay, positive 5 upon 2 and 3 upon 4 is above the x-axis, right? So if the minimum point is above x-axis, hence the curve y equals to x squared minus 5x plus 7 is entirely above x-axis, right?
yes.
yes.
Okay. Now part B says find the coordinates of the point of intersection of the line and the curve. This is very easy part. How do I show the point of intersection between the line and the curve?
When the line intersects the curve, the
Yes,
y-axis.
yes. No, no, not the y-axis. The when the line intersects the curve, so I will have to solve the two equations simultaneously. Can you guys quickly solve these two equations simultaneously? Okay. The curve is intersecting the line at 2 points. Let me call them A and B. Please give me the points of intersection.
So we replace y with 2x minus 3.
Yes, in the equation, you can replace y with 2x minus 3 and simplify this equation. You should get x squared minus 7x plus 10, isn't it? So the two values of x
Yes.
are going to be, the two values of
It
x
is
are
5 and 2.
and 2. Okay. So these are the x-intercepts. Okay. Sorry, these are the x coordinates of the intersection point. To find the y coordinate, I can just plug this value of x into my equation, any of the equation. So if you plug x as 5, you get 7. And when you plug x as 2, you should get 1. Okay. So these are my point of intersection, 5, 7 and 2, 1. Are we good till here?
Sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now for part C, guys, question says, write down the set of values of x that satisfy this inequality. X squared plus 5x plus 7 is less than 2x minus 3. X squared plus 5x plus 7 is less than 2x minus 3.
Sir, it's negative 5x plus 7.
All right, negative 5x plus 7 is less than 2x minus 3. Guys, x squared plus minus 5x plus 7, would you agree that it's the equation of the curve in the question?
Yes.
And
Yes.
2x minus 3 is the equation of the line. So you want to find those values of x for which the curve is less than the line. So just think about this. I have a curve and a line. They are intersecting at 2 points. This point is, let's say this, the intersection points were 2 and 5, right? This point is 2 and the next point is going to be 5. So where, for what values of x is the curve below the line? For what range of values of x is the curve below the line?
2x minus 3.
Okay, here's the question again. See, the curve, this equation needs to be less than the equation of the line. This means that there are going to be values of x which is going to satisfy this inequality, and for which the curve is going to be below the line. Less than the line means below the line. So where is the curve below the line? Over here? Yes or no? This is your line
Yes.
and this is your curve. The curve is below the line. So the curve is below the line for what range of values of x?
2, 3, 4.
No, you don't have to write down the integer values. Just give the range of the values. X, for values of x that are
X
greater
is
than 2,
greater than 2 and x is
less
less
than
than
5.
5.
Okay. That's one way to go about this question, by realizing, okay, that's the equation of the curve and that's the equation of a line. You do have the points of intersection. You can find it out. Okay. There was one another way of going about this question, and that is, alternate method. That is simply going, you should consider this as a inequality. Okay. So if that's my inequality, solving an inequality means find the range of values of x, which is going to satisfy this inequality. So the first step should be that you rearrange this inequality. You rearrange the terms in this inequality. You bring this 2x to the other side, minus 3 to the other side of the inequality. You're going to get x squared minus 5x minus 2x plus 7 plus 3 less than 0. Yes or no?
Yes.
X
Yes, sir.
squared minus 7x plus 10 less than 0. Okay.
Yes.
Now that's a quadratic inequality. And the question says, the question now becomes, for what values of x is this curve going to be less than 0? Okay.
So that
So
means 2 less than x and less than 5. X less than 5.
no, 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 no. 2 less than x. Yes, that's correct. See, Abdul Rahman, we read this inequality as x greater than 2. You are right. 2 less than x and less than 5. That's also correct. Okay, the answer is correct, but it's better to read the answer as x greater than 2 and less than 5. So that's basically your curve, and the critical values, if you factorize this, the critical values are going to be the same. X equals to 2 and x equals to 5. If I want to write down the inequality for x, I want which region I want. Do I want the region below the x-axis or above the x-axis?
Below.
Below. So that's why the answer of the inequality should be between 2 and 5. So x must be greater than 2 and less than 5. Okay. That's another way of solving the question. You can solve the question like this, or you can solve the question like this. Is this making sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Sir, but these values of x are same as we got in part B.
Yeah, yeah, because these are the intersection points. See, remember, this is the equation of the curve and this is the equation of a line. So
Yes,
if they are going to intersect at the intersection points, right? These points
yes.
are the intersection point. That's why you're getting the same answers. This is referred to as the critical values as well.
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
I want you to try this question now. Let me know if you need my help.
So could you give me a minute because I have a done.
Sorry,
Done.
you want me to go up? Sorry,
No, he's saying to please wait. Azan हो रही है.
okay, okay. Yes, I can wait. Sure, sure.
Sir, how are we gonna express 10x minus x square in the form a minus into x
That's
plus b whole square?
a completing square form.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
So you need to convert this into completing square form, guys. Abdul Rahman, are you available?
Sir, it's 10x.
Right. That's the solution for the first part.
Sorry, I'm back.
All right. So I just did the solution for the first part. You can do it, Abdulrahman, and let me know if you have any questions. If you're done with the first part, move on to the second part and the third part.
So, sir, how many marks are these questions?
The completing square can be 2 to 3 marks. Uh, the second part is going to be 1 mark, 1 to 2 marks, and the third part is going to be around 2 to 3 marks.
Sir, why is 0 minus 0 is equals to minus b square plus a? How did you assume 0?
The quadratic equation is always in the form of ax squared plus bx
Yes,
plus c. Okay,
yes,
so the coefficient of x squared over here is minus x squared, right?
mm,
The,
yes,
the coefficient of x is 10, right? And
mm,
there is no constant term, so it's going to be 0.
okay.
Okay, is
Sir,
everyone
now we'll
done with
find
starting?
we'll find the points of B now, the vertex.
Yeah, the vertex means the stationary point or the coordinates of the turning point. So what's the coordinates of the vertex point, Abdul Rahman?
Will be positive 5 and 25.
Very good. Is this a maximum curve or a minimum curve?
Maximum,
Very good.
minimum,
Maximum,
maximum.
because the coefficient of the bracket is -1. So this vertex
Yes.
is a maximum point. All right. Now part C says, find the set of values of x for which y is less than equal to 9. I need to find the set of values of x for which my y is the curve, is less than equal to 9. So y is less than equal to 9. Y was 10x minus x squared and it is less than equal to 9. So minus x squared plus 10x should be less than, okay, 10x, okay, let's do this. 10x minus x squared minus 9 less than equal to 0. Agreed?
Yes, yes, sir.
But please remember that I will always try to have coefficient of x squared as +1. So
Yes, sir. If you multiply by 1, the inequality will also change.
yes, very good. Whenever you multiply or divide an inequality by a negative number, the sign is going to flip. So if I multiply this inequality by -1, that's going to be minus 10x plus x squared plus 9. Oh,
So,
the
sir,
right
that
side is
means,
greater than equal to 0. Please remember this, Abdulrahman, that the sign is going to flip.
oh yes, I know that, sir. But why do we multiply -1 just to make that positive x square?
Yes, just to make the coefficient of x squared positive. That's going to help me solve the question much more easily. All right, so again, we are left with this quadratic inequality. Now, I want you guys to give me the correct answers for this quadratic inequality. It's the same drill. You're going to find the critical values and then give me the correct range of the values of x.
It's 1 and 9.
1 and
9
9,
and 1.
9
9
and
and
1,
1.
9 and 1, both positive.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's critical value. Okay,
Yeah.
you want this curve to be greater than equal to 0. Greater than equal to 0 means above the x-axis. So what should be my solution set? Guys, what should be the answer?
Sir, give me a minute.
X is uh, less than 1 and greater than 9.
X is less than 1 or X is greater than 9. Very good. Okay.
Sir, what if I just like learn the thing which you told us before?
Like,
Like in the first slide which you told us, like if x minus p, yes, if this one x minus p, x minus q less than 0, so this answer will be x p greater than x and x greater than q. If we learn this,
it's the other way. X, it is read as X greater than P and less than Q. Yes, you can learn this as well. There is no need to draw the sketch, but I always tell my students while teach my students while drawing this sketch, because you can see where it is positive and you can see where it is negative. Okay. But if you want to remember this and do this inequality, that's fine. But just make sure that you're getting the right answer. Okay.
so sir, is it good? It's which way is better? Is it like drawing the curve or without drawing the curve in exam?
After teaching so many years, what I have seen is that students do make a mistake in writing down the inequality. So let's say if the question is this, okay, and if the question is this, and if they have just learned the way, they might end up writing the answer X greater than 1 and less than 9. So they may end up with getting a wrong answer then. Okay, that's a wrong answer. So whatever you're convenient with, go for that method. Okay. When you're going to practice questions, you're going to get to know which method you prefer more. That's
Sir, why
totally
are
up
you
to you.
writing it separately?
Sorry,
Why are you writing it separately like x is greater than 1 or x is greater than 9?
because
X
that
is less than 1 and greater
if
than
the
9.
values of X are greater than 1, less than 1, okay, or you are going to take X greater than 9, they are these points apart. There is a gap in
Okay.
between. They are not
Yes, yes.
continuous. Okay.
Okay.
So that's all for today's lecture. Okay. I'm going to send you this file for your revision, and uh, I'm going to send you some uh, videos on this as well. Okay. So you can watch it. And also I'm going to send you a homework for that you need to do it before the next class. Are we good till here?
Yes.
Oh,
Sir, please share your number.
yes, I will. Just a second.